Vamos e para o mama, vamos e para o amiga tinka epone, amiga tinka epo, amiga tinka epone, amiga tinka epo, babu dizakunena, manakine babu dizakunena, babu dizakunena, mana mama babu dizakunena, babu dizamiyebe kine, babu dizamiyebe. Babu dizamiyebe mama, babu dizamiyebe, babu dizabubera kini, babu dizabubera. Vamos e para o vamos e para o vamos e para o mama, vamos e para o amiga tinka epone, amiga tinka epo, amiga tinka epone, amiga tinka epo. Babu dizakunena, manakine babu dizakunena, babu dizakunena, mana mama babu dizakunena, babu dizamiyebe kine, babu dizamiyebe, babu dizamiyebe mama, babu dizamiyebe, babu dizamwera mama babira yo yo.
Welcome, people. We are back again this Monday. This is our third Monday running, and this is Percy Chama on one-on-one with Dr. Kasonso. I hope you've been enjoying our shows, and today, as you know, our program is basically we discuss current issues in business and finances with a focus on Zambia, because we are all Zambians, and that's what we try to concentrate on. And I'll start by basically trying to, since we discuss about finances, we might as well tell you how our Kwacha is performing against other currencies. I'll start with the US dollar to Kwacha. Buying is 16 Kwacha 89 ngwe, and selling it's 16 Kwacha 94 ngwe. And the pound, it's that's the British pound, because you know there are different pounds as well. So I would say the British pound, it's 22 Kwacha 92 ngwe buying, and selling it's 22 Kwacha 99 ngwe. The euro, it's 19 Kwacha 11 ngwe buying, and selling it's 19 Kwacha 18 ngwe. The South African rand was selling at 1 Kwacha 8 ngwe. Although there's a slight decline from the rates of year end, and the Kwacha, at least it has continued to stabilize. So with other major currencies, as you can see, okay, that shows it's going in the right direction. As you can see, I've got Dr. Kasonso here. He's an expert. He's based in the Washington, United Kingdom. Oh, sorry, not United Kingdom, United States of America. He's our expert. He's the one who, in our first week, I did explain what qualifications he has. At the moment, the only thing I can tell you, he's based in Washington, D.C. He owns an accounting firm in Tyson Corner. And he'll be the one who'll be giving us his expert view on the topics we are discussing today. In this third discussion, we are going to evaluate the case for splitting ZESCO into 3 standalone divisions, compare the split of the telecommunication, which is a PTC, 3 decades ago. That was done by MMD. And then we will close our show discussing the proposal of the redesigning chizungu chivuta kupanga ko yandalama yamene tili nayo kufaka ko pinangu tuma features mzani mverera ko chifundo ma features tiyaziva mchinyanja so wakavike ko kutwa kubika wakatinjeko impia ikalemuleka ko fimbi wavika ko maybe mtu wakaunda those are the things we are trying to do to be discussing today. So first, before I even start asking questions and all that, I'll let Dr. Kasonso to say how he's feeling, how his week has been, and he lets us know. Dr. Kasonso.
Thank you, my friend Percy. How are you today? It's good to be back on TV Bakwetu, and I'm excited today, and I'm feeling great. So we're here to talk about ZESCO. We're going to compare that split that took place 30 years ago of the Postal Services Corporation. And then we're going to discuss also the proposal to redesign the features of the Kwacha, if there is a case for us to do that. So the purpose of this is to just share information as well as educate, and so that people pay attention to what is going on around us. So I'm glad you tuned in. So please share this link with your friends and subscribe to TV Bakwetu if you have not. And we're also live on YouTube, so you can listen to us as well on YouTube. So we're going to say very profound and very important things. We are going to save you a lot of time for you to read things on your own, for you to read the political spin about those events. So we are going to offload a lot of information and support your cause to understand what is going on in the business environment of our country, Zambia. So I'm glad you're here. Over to you, Percy.
Thank you. At least the YouTubers, you can also help us by putting the super chats for the YouTube, and we also need stars. Please help us with stars, the Facebook people. Those stars and the super chats from Facebook, they're the ones which help us run this page. So it will be helpful for us to be giving you good content. We need those stars and we need those super chats from YouTube. Now, Doctor,
okay.
So what's going on with ZESCO? While I'm asking on top of that, let me add something as well. Why is the UPND government exploring the division of ZESCO in 3 separate standalone companies? Please explain to me. I want to know.
Yeah, thank you. So thank you for those 2 questions, Percy. So what we're going to do first, let's begin to understand what is going on with ZESCO. What is going on with ZESCO is that despite its size and monopolistic position, ZESCO has been facing financial, organizational, and structural challenges that present an existential risk to the company. So here is a company. It is the only company of the kind in the country, but it continues to face financial problems and operational inefficiencies. So that is the big issue that is going on here. ZESCO cannot fully operate without a grant from the government. And yet ZESCO is in the market alone by itself. It is the only shark in the pond, but it can survive. So what is going on? So that's the focus of this discussion. Now, if you haven't found out about this, the government of the Republic of Zambia back in 2014 organized what they called the IDC. The IDC is the Industrial Development Corporation. So the Industrial Development Corporation is a company that runs a group of parastatal companies on behalf of the government. So in this conversation, when we say the government, we are referring to the IDC. The president sits as the leader of the board of the IDC, and he appoints everybody who sits on there. And they have 35 companies in their portfolio, and one of them is ZESCO. So we're gonna grab ZESCO. It's probably the largest one of the companies on there. So why and the UPND government particularly is interested in this is ZESCO is in an untenable position financially, and the profitability and inefficiencies are in question, and there is need to make ZESCO not only profitable but providing a service of quality, efficiency, and at the price that is comparable to the standards that are obtaining in the international market. So in summary, what is going on with ZESCO? ZESCO has operational inefficiencies, which means it's not as efficient as it could be. It's a constructive company that is living below its potential. Yeah, and then the profitability of the question is not there. So there is need to review all the income streams, operating costs, expenses, and their balance sheet. And then ZESCO also owes other companies outstanding arrears. They are independent power generating companies in the Republic of Zambia who work with ZESCO. ZESCO fails to pay them for the services, for the power that they provide. So it is owing arrears. How do you pay that? ZESCO also is a beneficiary of some bonds for infrastructure, for power generation and other things. But the current operations do not guarantee that ZESCO is able to meet all these obligations. So there is another problem that I want to tell you about is that ZESCO is not able on its own to obtain credit without the support of the government. So the creditworthiness of the company is in question as at this point. Because of all of these problems, the UPND government is interested in finding ways to make ZESCO more profitable and that. So that is how this initiative has come. We are at the exploratory stage. The government wants to find out if it is possible to separate the generation of electricity, the transmission of electricity, and the distribution of power as separate divisions or co-equal existing companies. That's what's going on with ZESCO right now.
But can you, because now I'm thinking, the last sentence you said, one distribution, one harnessing the electricity. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So how is it? You know, you've already mentioned that they're just exploring. So I think I'll leave it there. I'll ask it later on when my brain is straight. But for now, what I'll ask is what is involved in separating ZESCO into 3 units?
Thank you for that question. So what is involved in separating those units is a comprehensive financial, structural review and devising a strategy to that is going to be there. So for this reason, there are certain things that need to be done. The government needs to hire experts. You know, it's a political decision, yes, but it's the political decisions based on business sense. So for this reason, they are not just arbitrarily announcing that they are going to separate these divisions. Yeah, but when you look at it, what they want to achieve, what is involved is making sure that understanding the practicality and the benefit of creating each of these as a separate standalone division. But it can also be a group of companies, but each one of them able to stand on its own and providing a service to the other. And that is what is involved. It's separating the company and pulling different divisions and possibly turn them into separate companies, but working in the same supply chain. And then the value chain of the other company is passed on for a benefit to the other division, and the other division or the other company passes on that benefit to the other division. So when the revenue stream comes in from the other, the group of companies within that structure are charging each other money. So muchiwa mbatulera ndati balefo okufunyamu otuma company tutatu. Kube company imo ile dealing na generation of electricity. Fifima hydro pumps fia waku kumimana filia the generation be separate. Then the transmission, there are more than 9,000 lines, kilometers of ZESCO power lines. Build that into a separate company. The distribution has to do with the actual delivery of power into buildings, into homes, into companies, into streets, and everywhere. So each one of these, the government wants to understand if it's possible to create these separate divisions. These are separate divisions, and then you can remove the bottlenecks in between, and you can also remove issues or inefficiencies. You can spot out where the inefficiencies come from. Because ZESCO is so large, the inefficiencies are also understood as ZESCO-wide inefficiencies. So the government wants to drill down to the core. Where is the problem? Where are the infrastructural deficits? Where is the inefficiency coming from? And in the long run, that would, if that was successfully carried out, ZESCO would become a more efficient company.
Oh, all right, that's quite interesting. But because according to the things you've mentioned, I think I'll lead into this question because there should be pricing somewhere. So yeah. Let me ask my question. My question is, what is transfer pricing, and how is it going to be used between the three separate units of the future ZESCO Limited?
Yeah, that's actually a brilliant question, because we are saying that one way is to begin to subdivide these companies as subdivisions of one entity, divisions of one entity, but set up each one as a responsibility center, which means the leader of one division or one company, let's say generation, has responsibilities, overall responsibilities over generation. And then at whatever cost they produce, they produce electricity, they generate power. Then they charge that power to the second entity, which transmits the power across the country, or puts the power near to the customers. And then this company takes that service or product or power. When it transmits it, it adds on from that price another cost for its profit to cover its own costs and a little profit, and then charges to the final one that is distributing, and the distributing organization or entity is the one that is going to be responsible for pricing the power appropriately to earn a profit as well on its services. So each division will work for a profit, and because of that, you are going to find that each division or company is going to be challenged to minimize their costs so that they can earn a profit. But in the company-wide policy, then you can choose or decide as the overall directors, a board of directors or company, you can choose to decide at what price you are going to put out the product to the market. So transfer pricing simply means the price at which one division is going to charge the other division. There are many types of prices that you can use. Each division can charge only the cost, or another division can choose to charge a cost using a cost plus method. So which means their cost plus a little profit, so that they have the incentive to be efficient and earn. So if each organization is reducing costs, the ultimate product is going to be at a good and affordable price, comparable to the standards of electricity generation and supply in the sub-region or anywhere else in the world. So that's what the transfer pricing is.
I'll ask something from the viewers, because I know later on I need to bring in our viewers, but it's a question I wanted to ask, but I think my brain wasn't working straight. Somebody even laughed at me that my brain is not working straight. But now, since I've seen now the question I wanted to ask, somebody has asked it, so I'll put it on the screen for you. I'll give you just a minute for that, just a quick one, so that I can continue with what I wanted to ask in the first place.
Yeah, Mr. Johannantime says, won't the separation increase the administrative costs, which would be pushed to the consumer? That's a brilliant question, actually. His concern is that there will be a component of administrative costs that will be put on to the service, and that administrative costs will be an overarching thing from Division 1, Division 2, and Division 3. Yeah, so here is the thing. Transfer pricing is an internal policy of the company. Transfer pricing is an internal policy of the company, and it's mostly used for improving divisional performance purposes only. The price that is internally charged does not reflect the customer's price at the end of the day. But because we use transfer pricing as a divisional performance criteria, and they charging the cost, the actual cost, including administrative costs, what that means is that when the product is being sold at the end, the price will be based on the actual cost plus a little profit for ZESCO. So that doesn't mean that the administrative costs will be carried forward, because there are services that would be duplicate, and they will not be duplicate services in different divisions, because they will not be doing the same things.
Okay, thank you very much, because that's what I wanted to ask, but somebody decided to come into my head and ask it for me. Anyway, I'll continue with my questions. In terms of government requests for expression of interests, I thought I was in front of me. Let me first finish explain myself. The government requested for expression of interest for provision consultants services for financial and operational structuring of ZESCO Limited. Now, my question is, what are they expecting from the consultants? If you can just elaborate what you think in your capacity as our expert.
Yeah. So I think you're referring to what happened last week. The yes. IDC put out an invitation to tender for this particular project. So they're inviting competent people, competent companies, to act as a consultant on behalf of government. So what has happened is that they are in the process of securing a bank from an African Development Bank, and then they want the consultant to come in and perform specific services, consultancy services for financial and operational restructuring of ZESCO. So to summarize up that, what they're expecting are two things. Number one, they are expecting a blueprint from the consulting company. The blueprint simply means that it's a strategy, general strategy of how the government is going to go about separating these two divisions and how it can be done. And also they're expecting, the second thing is the strategy of operation for the new organization, if they must take that direction. So what they are going to evaluate and analyze are the different components of financial statements. They are going to evaluate the income statements for ZESCO as a whole. They are going to evaluate and understand in depth the balance sheet and the statement of cash flows. And then once they disaggregate the divisions, they are going to assign balance sheet items to each of these divisions. And then they are going to also assign liabilities that are related to each of these divisions, and something they are calling contingent liabilities. Liabilities that the company could incur as a result of the changes to its structure. And also contingent liabilities are those contracts in which the government, ZESCO has entered, but at the same time, they depend on certain output levels as an aggregate company, for example. So the government is expecting the consultant to bring up a report that justifies this approach, or that helps, that shows that this is the way to go. The report might as well say, oh, that is not the way to go, but this is the way we can go. So you can see that what they are doing here is deliberate thinking through what they are doing. They're not making arbitrary political decisions. They are making decisions that are based on good business sense.
Well, that's quite interesting. So what do you think are the critical skills required of a consultant then? Because the things you've explained, I gather there should be something more interesting with the consultant as well.
Yeah, so what happens every time you hire a consultant for this type of work, first of all, the big issue here is the government or the IDC wants ZESCO to return to profitability. And what is going to be required is the review of all income streams, operating costs, expenses, and the balance sheet. So what they're going what the critical skills will be needed, what the government is asking for is an accounting company, with adequate resources to figure out and calculate the income streams. Where does ZESCO's money come from? They have to be able to quantify and work those things down. They have to have personnel that can do that. Yes, and then what are the operating costs? So they have operated, ZESCO so far as the operating costs as an aggregate enterprise. But which operating costs can be assigned to different divisions? And then the expenses. The expenses, what are the annual expenses that can come in or can be expected to come for each division? Then the balance sheet. What would be the financial position of a separate division? So the skills that are required is a full-fledged accounting firm with not less than 10 experts. So basically, what we are looking at is a Deloitte, is a KPMG, and other companies that can bid correctly. Maybe the government will take one company, or maybe the government will take one consultant for a division or for a section of work, and another for that part. So, but contracts of this sort are better taken as a whole. So those are the critical skills that the government is looking for. There is people with eyes to look on the details of the financials, and then they can identify which assets are useful, which assets are obsolete, and which division would need recapitalization, and all the financial needs. And also giving those divisions, if they do subdivide them, the capacity to operate and the strategy to be profitable.
Okay. At least I've understood about ZESCO, the way they will separate it and know that at least I've got an idea of the way you've explained. Now, I'll put this question. You remember the time you were in grade 12 or grade 9 at contrast and compare.
Compare, yeah. I remember.
Yeah, that's how I'm going to ask the next question. To just remind myself that at one point I come grade 4, 5. No, I'm grade 12.
Brilliant.
So, okay, can you contrast and compare this initiative at ZESCO to the splitting of the postal and telecommunication company by the MMD 3 decades ago, or should I say 30 years ago?
Wow. You know, I was actually in grade 12 when they did that. And we used to go to the postal services on World Post Day to debate different issues. And I think I attended the 92, 93, 94. I think I attended 2 or 3 of those public speaking contests when that was happening. So basically what they're exploring at ZESCO is similar to, so the gist of this is to realize that we have done this before. We've done this before, but it's a different industry and obviously different infrastructure involved. In ZESCO's terms, we are going to need the mechanical engineers and the electrical engineers to support the work of the accountants. Yeah, they will need those experts, definitely. Yeah, but in this case, PTC, it's you, we serve, was subdivided into postal and telecommunications. It is, you know, you have to understand the history of that. The General Post Office existed many years before the telecoms came around. So they piggyback the telecoms on the General Post Office. So telecoms in the Republic of Zambia developed as an integral part of the postal system across the country. So then in 1994, they split them into 2 separate companies. And these 2 separate companies were operating with difficulties, and there were even arguments, should they privatize the post as well, or should they privatize the telecommunications? But when they separated them, the post was continuing to struggle because all postal services across the world, they need government funding. So the postal services needed to remain independent of government. But in those early years, the telecoms, which was Zamtel, Zamtel actually took off in the beginning years, and it did very well for several financial years. And it blossomed because it stopped subsidizing the post as well, the postal part of the business. So they were separated as separate companies, but they are also, both of them, they are owned by the state, they are parastatals. So now, subsequently, what happened is what shouldn't happen if they must subdivide the ZESCO into divisions or separate companies. What happened was the telecoms, the subsequent governments begin to milk the telecoms through bad policy and through just like milking a cow, sucking resources out of it. So through policy, how? The telecoms are the ones who provide landlines and telephones across the country. That business hasn't been touched. It's still intact, it's still with them. But the evolution of the cell phones and smartphones and these mobile devices, the government brought in dominant companies and they ate a giant market share from Zamtel. And today, at this point, Zamtel is skeletons because its market share has been consumed by these giant enterprises. And that we cannot repeat. Another government tried to privatize Zamtel. They tried to privatize Zamtel so that Zamtel can start competing with these other firms that they've brought into the market. But the people they sold the company to could not come up with the necessary technologies to do that competition. They quit the investment. Other problems we can't go into detail on this show. So what we can learn from the PTC is that separating a company can be done into several different parts. And once it is done, the management must be carefully planned. That's why the consultant must be able to give the government a powerful strategy to ensure the survival of the separated divisions. Thank you.
Oh, that was very interesting. As now, I'll invite our other expert who's based here, so that I've got a question for him I prepared earlier. Shani Patrick, you're on mute.
Yes, Percy. Actually, it's me who should ask Kasonso.
No. Ninkwata question yenu nine. Ian.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay,
So
no problem.
yeah. Yes. yeah, Lisa. But
Okay, Dr. Kasonso.
what would you?
Good evening.
Good
evening, Percy. Good evening, viewers.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm all for you, Percy.
Yeah, go for it.
No, it's a question about Percy.
Push a question.
Okay. Even at Pokui Pusha. Lintu bakiralondolola ba doctor wesu. Bakiranda pali pricing. In terms of the pricings and the way he explained. I was thinking, how do you look at it? How, in terms of the way he explained, if you've got the same thinking, is it simplified or maranda komchivemba? I don't mind what language you use.
No. I think what Kasonso was trying to answer was Mulumendo achipsha question at Gawachta bundle ZESCO into 3 divisions. So Mulumendo what I understand was that by production, by generation, bakalachta charge, by transporter, and then which is transmission, and then by transmission or wayachta charge abakushtisha by litera or nani. So what this guy was saying is kulimitengo shitadusha transferred up shibirio to the 3rd one. So what he was trying to say is mutengo tawakakule, because once wale fukula panga ama profits in each it's a value chain. So that guy was thinking at possible value chain para stage value chain panga profit. But that's not the way, because these are not 2 different companies. They are just divisions.
Yes.
You know, I'll give you an example of Percy. I work in a very big organization called NHS. So Alikwatana is a similar transfer pricing, but we call ourselves recharges. We recharge ourselves.
Yeah. So the other thing about that is that transfer pricing is an internal performance measure.
That's the thing. Yeah. So they can do like a Kasonso number.
It does not factor into
they can do a number. But Percy, if we panga ZESCO, before I push a Kasonso question, but Percy, what the government is trying to do is what they call corporate reconstruction or restructuring. That balance sheet, bongo sola.
Yeah.
By split into kanama assets. Remember, by generation assets in Niaya, remember transmission assets in Niaba, and then by retailers, Abakalash number. Name assets in Niaya. But Percy, the point is the poya kweva.
We can put in Congole, liabilities.
Liabilities. Nama contingent liabilities also.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, you know, we don't deal with contingent assets, liabilities. So, Percy, the idea behind this unbundling of ZESCO, there are 2 reasons. One is to make it profitable. And then 2 is to make it better organized for its present needs. At the moment, ZESCO is not fit for purpose. is not organized for its present need. A monopoly, ZESCO is a PhD case study. A monopoly, well placed, but very pangama losses. Ni PhD case study. How? Where on earth can an organization which is a monopoly, nama subsidies that ifunyapo, but what very pangama losses. So now the point Kasonso Wachalondo numbers, Navachta and Bando, I am organizations because it's too big. Hello, imagine Mukwete, chief executive engineer, electrical engineer, or power electrical engineer. Does he know about distribution? Does he know about retailing or supply chain? So, but place number, what's going to happen is generation, by experts, power generators, even the chief executive, expert. So what is going to happen now is efficiency and effectiveness, and then they will be competing by Percy. What are they going to be competing? Which organization is more profitable? Which division is more profitable? Because Karama bonuses. Yeah. So by transferring prices from one place to another, they pangama profits within their division. So can compete. You see what competition brings in. Then proper transmission by transporter. Nibala wantoba kwata experience in distribution. So now waka wama experts, na CEO abo, nangu general manager nangu, whatever nani title waka decide whether it's going to run by a general manager or a chief executive or managing director. Now waka kwato abo. Eno wasa fikaramba kulast kuya ba place kumiens kuya kuya consumer. Now waka kwate na division now. Now baka kwate nomba an expert. Why shibefia kushtisha satisfy my customers, so that company at the end of the day is profitable. Not totally. Before I ask, Kasonso can make a comment.
Before you ask, we need more stars, please, and we need super chats from YouTube. When Patrick asks his question, I'll bring in whoever is in the background while Dr. Kasonso is answering. And if you've got a question, actually, because there's another topic I'd like to discuss with whoever who's going to join us. So go ahead, Patrick.
Yeah, Doc, I'll be quick. Only two quick questions. The first question, Doc. Is it the right time to unbundle ZESCO? That's the first question. Okay. The second question, obviously the government has issued a tender, for an expert, to come and advise the government the best way of unbundling ZESCO. So, Kasonso, this is a strategic move. Yes. This is part of strategy, and strategy is all about alternatives. So don't you think the company case that one alternative, he should give at least 3 alternatives? Government this is the best alternative. I leave it to you to answer that.
Yes, thank you very much for much in PhD thesis material. Basically, if we have a Lombaba company, the PhD thesis, but Bakabe group, so because of that, it will look a different way, and because the same people who are going to be involved in this study of the company and finding the best ways to separate things, they are also going to create recommendations and training materials for stakeholders to understand what they will find. At this point, we don't know. We can say there will be 3 divisions, but maybe in the final analysis, they recommend that there should be 2 instead of 3. But what I don't see a possibility is that there will be one, because that we have done. And Mwalishwa insanity, it's doing the same thing over and over and hoping for a different outcome. And if the company is not operating well, it's inefficient, and there are opportunities for us to do that, the time is right now. Martin Luther King once said, the time is always right to do what is right. So it's time to return this company to profitability, and it's time to expand this company to earn us the necessary foreign direct investment. We have the most water in the sub-region, and we can grow hydropower more and expand it to other countries, and that can bring us economic benefits as a country. So I think that the time is right now. In fact, we are behind schedule.
Yes, actually. So as we are running out of time is kind of short. So I've brought in Mukelebai. Mukelebai, what you are listening, I've got two guys here. You can ask any of them. I'm confident of my experts that they'll give you an answer you want. You've got a minute, because we need to move to another topic, which is kind of one of our big topics. So you've got a minute. Okay, I'll give you 2 minutes to ask any of them. Then they'll give you an answer. Then we'll move on to the other topic I'm actually gagging for. But before I do that, I'll also play a video before I go to that next topic. But I won't play a video. I'll play audio, because I felt maybe I'm a rubbish technician, so I didn't manage to do what I was supposed to do. So I'm confessing right here. So what I'll do is I'll play you audio of that, then I'll dive into the final topic, which is, for me, it's the big topic as well. So over to you, Mukelebai. I've given you my experts.
Thank you.
You've got 2 minutes.
Thank you so much, Percy, for giving me this opportunity. Professor, good evening, and Patrick, good evening.
It's very good to see you tonight. How are you doing?
Thank you. We treasure the knowledge, the imparting knowledge into our minds and into us. We really treasure that. Kasonso, you have seen the government today, and you are making serious comparisons from the previous regime. What advice would you give to the current government to avoid the mistakes, a lot of mistakes that all these governments that came into power did? How do we prevent the mistakes, the mismanagement of these parastatals, and the abuse of resources? That is my question directed to you, Doctor.
Thank you.
The question to Wochilufya is, we have so many people that are trained in accountancy in Zambia. And every issue that is taking place today in Zambia, what that borders on money, is somehow directed or indirected. Accountants are involved. What advice would you give to account? Don't you have a disclosure laws or guidelines that you cannot hide illegal activities taking place in an institution, and you are obligated to report? What advice do you give to these people who are in accountancy and those who are graduating today, who are going into the profession?
Thank you, Mukelebai.
And the final question to both of you: what do you take of
Mukelebai?
nonsense?
Thank you. Guys, bear in mind, Doc, 1 second. Bear in mind, we are running out of time. So I want you to just use 1 minute, Doc. I know it's not enough, but you have to forgive me. But Patrick, 1 minute at least, so that we can have at least 10 minutes to discuss the other bit I want to discuss.
Okay.
So go for it, Doc.
Yeah, so here is what is happening, Wamkelebai. For a government to avoid the mistakes of the other governments, they have to be able to understand how those mistakes were made. The mistakes, a lot of mistakes that were made, especially in relation to national assets, were honest mistakes. The government in those days, in times past, they didn't know what they didn't know. And you can't use common sense to run a complex business in the 21st century. You have to use scholar practitioners to be able to look at the problem and tell you the consequences of the problem and give you what is there to know, so that when you're making a decision, you know what you need to know. So I'm happy with this government so far. The approach they have taken to ZESCO is an example of what I've just described. They put up a bid there, they throw a tender to invite experts, expert companies, to come and conduct research on their behalf and investigate the feasibility, the issues that are there in detail, and present a report to the government and get paid for that. That is an incredible effort. We never saw any of those steps in most of the previous governments. They would hire an expert to just come and help them sell. They've already made a decision to sell, and they haven't conducted any business research into the companies. So whatever companies, what ni tomato per market, nga wabule ira kubwesha kontengo and things like that. Mwavika kunemba sela ka factory kali kunu maka lingiwa kumani mwakusha as a separate component. So the approach they are taking to recruit scholar practitioners, and then they decipher the strategy, and then they bring out what the government doesn't know, what even them they don't know. Because when we begin research, we find something that we don't know, particularly accounting research. You know, that's the way the approach is taken. So I finished my 1 minute. I'll end there.
Thank you. Patrick, quick, so that at least
I'll be quick. Bamkeleva, you asked a very important question. Accountants, I think it's what Kasonso can support me, is one profession that you can find in almost every organization. And they are very important. And then accountancy also, like any other profession, is guarded by what is known as code of ethics or code of conduct, SCCA Kwacha. And some of the fundamental principles are honesty and integrity. So they are based on that, Mkelevai. But then when you look at Zambia and the last 10 years, na corruption, na political will, to start with, more parastatals, I don't think they were putting accountants who are qualified, because it's not just qualification. You can be a qualified accountant, but you're not honesty. The work with integrity. So qualification is useless. So they were putting people awashakwata integrity because they are cadres. And then on the other hand, the Auditor General, which consists of most qualified accountants, and in Zambia mostly it's SCCA. They were auditing those government institutions and parastatals, and they were producing those reports year after year. But what was happening? Balungu Barei Kalapo, prosecution Barei Kalapo. So now, the advice to this government, not even advice, Umuinalilanda, that you see ama auditors report ya lef mabali kwa ama copies. Bakata mpoku ya toa la ku prosecution. just like the latest one on parastatus.
That's
financial mismanagement, misappropriation of funds, fraud, and it's done by, some of them is done by accountants. So it's high time now that some people are taken to task for what they did. And then my advice to upcoming accountants, don't just get qualified. You need to have integrity, and you need to be honesty, and you need to respect the law. Thank you, Mkelebai.
Thank you very much. I wish I had a lot of time. I would have said more, but I'll move quick because I only have less minutes, of which I'm stealing from our principal at the moment. I'll play an audio. Then from that audio, I'll ask a question. It will be more like a discussion, but anyway, let me start it. Let me play that, then you understand what I'm talking about.
Very bad situation. We knew that the situation would be that good economically, socially, but the hole is much bigger than we expected, and we're just sort of digging in now. For example, the debt position itself was not fully disclosed, and we're picking issues around there. We're picking issues in terms of movements of cash, which is really not supposed to be the case, but we believe we'll be on top of things very soon in terms of knowing the extent of the damage that has been done. But there's a lot of damage.
When you say that some things that are not yet clear, are we talking about corruption?
We're talking about the full extent of the debt, Lukwesa, number one, as an example. We're talking about, if you like, the levels of corruption that we are beginning to pick. A lot of illicit, movements of funds that I don't want to preempt things, but what we're picking is horrifying. They're still trying to do things now. And even when we made pronouncements very clear that we want to stabilize the country, people are still trying to make last-minute movements of funds which are unauthorized, which are not theirs. But we'll get to the bottom of that very soon. Obviously, also, for example, if you look at the size of the payroll, you begin to see that there are a lot of people who are not working, but they're on the payroll, exerting a further burden to the treasury, which is already stressed.
Okay. Now, as you've heard the president, they are explaining, yeah? So, now, my question to the three of you here. Should the government seriously consider redesigning the features of the Kwacha? I'll start with Mkelebai. Mkelebai, you've got 2 minutes. You're on mute.
I'll answer it in a layman's point of view. I would simply say that even though it's going to cost them, but it's better to spend money to trap or to avoid loopholes. Changing of currency, it's quite a big venture. However, the government can start doing the right thing by starting from somewhere with probably starting with big currencies, especially when we have already evidence to show that monies, a lot of cash that Mr. Hakainde himself alluded to was everywhere it's in wrong hands. It's found in homes like even Faith Musonda and even what's his name again, Lungu, that Lungu was from the mines. So you can tell that these people have been using money and they have stashed a lot of monies in their backyards or they've buried it or they've, so it will be imperative, actually, very, very important for the government to consider changing of the currency or even just to add or to remove certain features so that we can catch Wakabola Lamasholi. Thank you.
Patrick, go for it.
Yeah, but Percy, your question was on the possibility of changing the currency.
Yes.
Isn't it?
Yes.
I would go for the currency change, and I've got some reasons. One of the reasons is towards the elections. We saw the cash that was floating around everywhere. And some of us, we've got friends who work in the banks. The banks experienced a lot of withdrawal of money. And then after the elections, that cash never went back into the system. Because what will happen is people would have been spending that money, goes to the bank, and then goes to the shops, and then deposit it in the bank. And then because what happens is the banks have got a certain amount of money they can keep in their safes. So what they do is the moment they pass over a certain limit required by the law or by Bank of Zambia, which oversees the banks, they have to move that money to Bank of Zambia. But after my elections, that money never went to the banks, and that money never went to Bank of Zambia, and people couldn't even withdraw money from the cash machines. Up to now, there is no money at Bank of Zambia. There's no money in the banks. There's no money in circulation, and which means money is with the people somewhere. And that's why we could find that little change from Faith Musonda, because the cash that is missing in circulations is billions.
Yeah.
So that's why we found that. Let me finish by Percy.
Yeah, summarize. Summarize.
Yeah, that's why we found that change by Faith Musonda. Now, about Percy, the point is, the Bank of Zambia, they know how much kwacha is supposed to be in circulation.
Yes.
Kamuri. So usually what they do is, ndalamanga shaonaika, because the shaonaika batora Bank of Zambia about printer shimbi to replace, because what we maintain a certain amount of money in circulation. So now shinda matapali. So in essence, Bank of Zambia has to print the money. So which means takuri cost up. You're in a cost by no print ndarama. They can just change our features. Pandalama. You know, I'm print one or two features, visible features. Hello, they don't need to print shown some denominations. They can start by UK. But I'm paying a 5 pounds, 10, 20. Let me finish my base. Zambia,
yeah, but can you summarize?
They can start with 150 because once they've done that, Bakabolala now will try to launder that money to bring it back into the system. I rest my peace.
Okay, before I go to Kasonso, because Kasonso, I'll need you to answer what I asked and to summarize. So you'll be at the end. So let me just ask my sister Imba if she's heard anything or she's gone. Okay, but Patrick, sorry, Patrick. 1 second. For me, I'll say something about the currency first before I let the doc add a few things. For me, I feel our currency needs some features to change. Because as I said at the top of the program, I said I would prefer to have the head of Kaunda, our first president, to be the head on all our money. Not Chiluba, not Sata, not Lungu, not no, just Kaunda. I'm just trying to make that point clear. Just Kaunda, the first president, the first father of our country, to be on those notes. That's how I feel about it, because as you guys said, people store money, and for you to start using that money, you need to take it somewhere. So if you take it to the bank, that's the only way we can catch them, as Patrick alluded to. Anyway, I'll leave it there. Doc, can you please answer in a short time, a minute, just answer that? I know it was a big topic, but we've run out of time. And then I'd like you to also summarize on what you explained to our viewers.
Yes, I think I would agree with Mr. Chilufya on the assumption that the Bank of Zambia knows the amount of money that should be in circulation. And the government that has inherited the reins of power from Bakawalala cannot continue to use that currency. We saw the splash of cash everywhere in the country. So if the money is not in the banking system, then the money is hiding somewhere. Probably we have even got more ditches than Mr. Liato had when we removed the Rupiah band. You remember Liato he had the graveyard of money at his farm. Yeah, so I think that we would recommend that proposal highly. And I also like what Percy has said. When I went to South Africa twice last year, I have with me in my pocket still some paper currencies from South Africa. This is 100 rands. Percy, ulipo hapa nani?
Nwa Mandela abo bali. Nipali
100 hapo. Naleta po ni 50. Ulipo hapa nani?
Awe Nwa Mandela foot.
So nalisa sanga Mandela mpachivumba mpaka ingira na mutumba lero na mufanya na wallet. That is a very good proposition. At least we cannot be a nation without heroes. We saw the celebration of the life of our founding father. It would be an amazing thing for the Zambian Kwacha that is improving in value and getting as powerful as it used to be many years ago to have Dr. Kaunda's face. So what we would like to recommend is the redesigning of the Kwacha as quickly as possible, given the government has to consider factors such as inflation and all the other things that go into the currency change. But the redesigning of the features of the Kwacha is very important for the country, and to have a form of a new beginning, and to be able to have a clean break from the criminal government that has a lot of currency everywhere else other than in the economy itself. Because the government is put in these measures, the strategies, and doing everything. They are paying out a lot of money in an economy where a lot of money is hidden around. And if Rupiah Banda's government could necessitate for us to change the features, what more would take over Wakawala? Now, let me summarize what we talked about today and hand it over to Percy before we close. Icho would take over UPND. Bulefwa elo uku putula ZESCO patu ampani tutatu. Webati ilia kampani itampe kokupanga kobukumu. Elo ilia kampani ya survivor sana pama grants ya government when it is the only monopoly in the country. So ni profitability ili issue na efficiency wa ZESCO ube kukwata ko quality kwati ni mufialo fimbi ama light ya chila moku ya kanchicho yela ifile musango file nchinshi so ngatwa solve ama problem ya value chain ya supply kuti fya ya fwako no kwata kamutengo akalondolweke pantukulaba ukuchita charge mitengo elo chimo twa umfokwe bati bazesco fi machine fimbi fwa kwata fi equipment fyali ba dated fyakale ngabaka putala baka belenga buno ka company baka chance streamline kaba efficient ZESCO ikafwe chalo chimbicho twachilanda pokwa tukutse separate what is involved in separating this ninchenshi abalumendo abayishibo calculate number ama accountants nama companies yabo bomani yakapi balembere pubache find out if wari iro kwishwa bapange report kubuteko ero chakulekeresha twachilanda po chakwe bati twalichitapo imirimo yako bati twaputula company pakati twaliputule ba post na ba telecommunications although if you actually catch non-shuku, companies are a struggle due to management issues. So, ubuteko ufire posa kwa mano. To allocation apakwe batinaka currency keneka kwacha. But chingi kotuma features to more. Chivavika poefe valefwa, but chichuni chava pandalama ya Zambe. Tatule chifwaya. Tulefwa babweshepo, at least umutu wa muntu. Na number one turero shako nikaunda. Bapes.
Na totela. And before we go, I would like to say thanks to Rika's Vision Cameras Development for your super chat. Thank you very much. 50 Australian dollars. Thank you very much. We appreciate that. And thank you to all of those who sent us stars on Facebook. We appreciate that. Helps us run our programs. And that also helps us to create very good content. And we are happy with your feedback. And I'm very happy with our audience. At least they've seen that what we are trying to teach, we're trying to teach everyone in terms of how our economy is running. Not just economists come here, they tell you that, they tell you all those big words. Myself, my panelists, they are very good experts. Next time we'll be just talking in Bemba, Nyanja, whatever language you want. You'll be voting. Kasonso can speak a lot of languages. I'm just joking. Hello viewers, thank you very much and have a blessed day. This is Vakwetu TV. We are signing off. Have a good night. Bye-bye.